So hello everybody and welcome to this edition of Chrysalis on the Couch. My name is Jude Mason and I'm a Year 2 and 3 tutor in Nottingham. And joining me today I have Rhianan, Zoe and Mary, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So if we can start with you please, Rhianan.
Yes, I am Rhianan, as you said, and I am a tutor in Bristol and also in Reading, so I cover two places. I've got 6 classes, so quite a lot of students, but I also am a counsellor with my own private practice and also a supervisor to student and qualified counsellors, so busy.
Fantastic. Yeah, you are busy, aren't you? I know 6 classes is immense, isn't it? But you know, likewise, I have my own private practice and supervision practice, and it's a busy job, but it's nice being busy, isn't it? It's always great to be busy.
I like lots of listening.
lots and lots of listening. Yeah, absolutely. Zoe, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Yep. Hi, I'm Zoe. I am currently just finishing my first year of hypnotherapy. I study in Reading and going on to do the 2 years part of the counselling, so I'm looking forward to that bit as well.
Fantastic. So a bit of a change for you then this year from hypnotherapy to counselling?
Yeah, you do a little bit of the counselling skills within hypnotherapy, but I'm looking forward to getting a little bit more in depth with it all, to be fair.
Yeah, it'll be fantastic, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. And Mary, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm Mary. I classed myself as an extra mature student. I started with Chrysalis in 2015 and I studied at Norwich. And yeah, then, you know, sort of for reasons I've qualified as a hypnotherapist, and then I started the second year, was halfway through my second year when unfortunately my son took ill. I wasn't very well and I opted out, with the proviso that I could go back, which is very good with Chrysalis. You can go back.
Yeah.
So that was that. Then I've finished then I rejoined in 2018-19. I'm losing track of time. Finished my second year. And the thing for me was that you went on to Moodle. You know, and I was not techno savvy at all. I was a really computer dinosaur, honestly, and I know the people in the office like Becky and Leanne and Lily were very patient with me. But anyway, I got through the second year, started the third year in 2019, and then was into, you know, about module 5, I think, when the pandemic struck. And as I said, it's been a long and winding journey. I'm now actually sourcing my own clients now. Hope to finish in by November 2022, which is my deadline. So I will be there, right? And, you know, I've got supervision, lovely supervisor, and everything else is in place. So, yes, that's me. I'll be determined.
Fantastic.
You'll see me.
So you'll be finished by this Christmas then?
Oh, let's hope so. It's a deadline. Apparently, according to Leanne, I've got to complete it by 2022 November. Because I started third year in 2019. So there we are.
That will be a fantastic Christmas present though, won't it, Mary?
Well, for see Christmas. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I really am. And
you know, don't worry about, you know, this. I think Moodle was difficult for lots of people, and Zoom. I mean, I don't know about you, Rhianan, but I'd never used Zoom before for client sessions. So it was a big challenge for everybody, but we're all here today. Hopefully everyone watching can see us all and hear us all. That's all that matters, isn't it?
Yeah.
So our topic today is going to be the power of listening, because obviously as therapists, yes, we talk, but most of it is listening, isn't it? And I don't know about how you feel, Zoe and Mary, and you as well, Rhianan, but I noticed that when I first observed students, there's a lot of talking. and it's almost like students are sort of trying to show off their skills of reflecting and paraphrasing and all of those things, which are very, very important. But as the course goes on, by the time I'm watching my year 3 students, there's less talking and more listening, and that's the natural progression of things, isn't it? Because when you really listen to understand, I think that's, for me, that's the shift. At the beginning, it's listening to work out what to say next.
Yeah.
I can feel a real pressure, can't it? What am I going to say next? So it can, I think it starts with that listening and then sort of trying to work out at the same time, how am I going to respond to this? And that pressure of responding. And it moves, hopefully, to listening to understand instead of listening to respond. And that's where we want to be, isn't it, as counsellors, really, really actively listening and really understanding things from our client's point of view. And that's powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, I think with that as well comes the silences. I was always I didn't like silences very much, but I think, like, even in just the first year, it's like all of us on the course, we've all said the silences mean, and that gives you your own space as well to be able to think, like you say, of what you're going to say back, but it gives you the time. So I think the listening is a major part of it, but obviously don't be afraid of the silences, which I had to learn, because I always thought that I had to say something without it being silent, but I think the silences as well make a lot of difference.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Zoe. I mean, that was my first, thing.
Yeah,
I hated the silence. I think, we brought up, sort of, you think, oh, what I done wrong. I need to be the one to break the silence, and it was very difficult. And even now, it's getting a lot better in my 3rd year, because, sort of, having the one-to-one client, having one-to-one face, and I thought, that you don't need to, but it doesn't seem, what I mean, in the beginning, it didn't seem right. I mean, so what do I say next? Or for waiting for the client and, to say something, is quite difficult, was quite difficult for me in the beginning. And to me, listening wasn't about learning a skill of listening. It was like developing, the listening skills, and it's only, as you say, when you are, sort of with your client for a little while, that becomes not much more natural, but it's a lot more empowering, just to be there and let them lead, the therapy,
And please be reassured, because all students find that difficult, don't
right,
they?
yeah. Is it?
All students, that's not, it's a big deal, isn't it, being able to sit with silence, even for qualified therapists as well. Sometimes it can feel a little bit uncomfortable, but that silence is what the client needs time to think, don't they, as well? It's thinking time, isn't it?
and sometimes with the silence, they then think that they need to say something, so sometimes it brings things out of them to actually say more.
Yeah, it's very true, Jude, sort of as a tutor, it sort of reassures, obviously, any students about to go into year 2 watching or anything, that it's not uncommon for us that we have students that, what do I do? What do I say? It's like the fixer rescuer is strong in the beginning, because we've become therapists, usually because we want to help, and it's trying to temper that piece so that it is useful. And so the holding of silence, like you said, very uncomfortable. The question that is often, right, so what do I do next? What do I do? And I've had this even from students on other courses as supervisees. So here's all of this, what do I do next week? And the question isn't what do I do, the question is, I wonder what I'll hear. I wonder what I'm going to hear, not what do I do. So it's very true early on that we feel that we must do something, and then we then detract from that listening.
Yeah, I remember when I first qualified, feeling, with my new clients, thinking exactly what you've just said. What am I going to do with them? Or I have to almost kind of prepare for a session, and then you'd go into the session all prepared, and then the client they might have been talking about something the week before, you kind of prep some things to talk about or some things to do, and then they talk about something completely different, and you'd almost kind of think, well, I've prepped for 45 minutes before this session. So it is about, and I say to my students, what's the worst thing that can happen in your class practice, that your client stops talking and you don't know what to say? What's the worst thing that can happen there? Really, nothing. Your client isn't necessarily expecting you to come up with a solution, and anyway, as therapists, you don't step in and give a solution. No. But I think when we talk about listening as well, and I've been thinking about this a lot today, from something somebody said to me recently. Somebody said to me that they'd got an issue to think about, and they'd gone on online forums to find answers, and they'd gone on internet, like they'd Googled it, they'd Googled these questions, and they'd asked like a plethora of friends. And they've got so much information and so many ideas. And I said, well, have you listened to yourself in any of this? Yeah. Because they got so, asking a good friend for advice, there's nothing wrong with that, of course, but going on so many forums, so many Google searches, asking so many friends, you have to listen to yourself as well, don't you? And there's sometimes we have an overload of information and we just don't hear what we're thinking. Because
that reminds me, yesterday I had a client really similar, and she talked about, like, again, she's trying to find the answer outside of herself with, I've asked this friend, I've Googled this, I've read this book, mum says this, dad says that. And I said, it sounds like you've got like this panel in your head and there's all these people in the panel. And I said, are you on the panel?
Oh, I love that.
And actually she had a real emotional response to it. She was like, no, I'm not. So that it just reminded me of that when you said that.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, there's power in listening to yourself for sure, isn't there? And your emotions are the signals, aren't they? If you don't feel right, if something doesn't feel right, it's a signal.
Yeah. I think for me, it's the silences are natural. It's getting easier as I go along, and I understand it and build up a rapport with my clients, because as I say, I'm sourcing my own clients, and at first it seemed quite as I say, unnatural for me, because I've always wanted to be jumping in there, not so much giving them a solution, but my problem was finishing people's sentences. When they start something, and my supervisor, fortunately I've got a lovely supervisor, and she knows me well now, and when somebody started, I'm trying to finish the sentence, she just has to look at me and I'm thinking, whoa, sit back, Frances. That I find very difficult, because I think I'm helping them, but no, I'm aware of it, and I think that's to me that's the most important,
That's the most important thing, isn't it? Being aware of it. And I guess these things all become really familiar little bits of behaviour, don't they? So you just do it without thinking.
It's like, Jude, what you were saying about listening to yourself as well. I think that's important as well. I found this out on our last session. We had to do a speaking presentation of how our ha-ha moments in hypnotherapy and what stuck in our heads. Obviously my one was a little bit emotional, for which it wasn't supposed to be, but I did get very emotional in it. And this week's I've been actually properly looking into so I think the listening to myself part from that sort of side of it has come out, and I know, the different things that I have to look for and what I need to do to be able to rectify it. But that was preparing for that, when we were preparing for it, because obviously we had between classes, I didn't get emotional at all. And it was literally, as soon as I stood up to speak about it, I had it all in my head, what I was going to do and everything, and it just went to pot. So I think from that side of it, you have to listen to yourself as well, which, it's not just listening to other people, like you said, it's listening to yourself and knowing what you yourself can do as well. Yeah.
I mean, I think that listening to other people, it's showing respect to other people, isn't it? But, we're not always very good. I hold my hand up here. I'm not always, I talk about certain things with clients all the time about respecting, you know, about self-respect, about self-worth. I'm not always the best at giving that to myself. And I think a lot of counsellors are great at doing that for other people. But sometimes we get lost a little bit. And maybe that is because of, you know, like Rhiannon said, we know that we don't fix and we know that we don't rescue. But there is a part of us, maybe, people who want to become counsellors, people who want to become therapists. Well, we want to help people, don't we? Because that's the basis of the job, isn't it? It's not fixing people, but it is supporting people and helping people and respecting people. If we didn't have those kind of desires, I don't think we'd do it, would we?
No.
Does it get any easier, Judith?
Yes, it does.
It does.
And I think it is about, you know, the very title of this, to understand the power of listening as not.
Right.
I think sometimes as well, it's kind of, we see it as like very early things that we learn. So we can write an essay about active listening and it can come very easy to us, and active listening, we know how, but in the moment, do we actually listen? That power of it, and the suspension of ourselves, so the suspension of our need to fix and our need to hurry up and our need for an outcome, we suspend that very lovingly to go at the pace and hear and hold. And it's something interesting that sometimes I hear things like active listening referred to as level 2 skills, and it almost gives it a disservice, because while they're things we learn very early, they're level 5 skills. They're core and they're very, very fundamental. And you know, the power of these things, Carl Rogers talks about, do we actually listen? We think we listen, but do we? And so many cases you'll hear that actually the listening was the most important part for a person. What one story I remember hearing fairly recently, and it was somebody who was actually, unfortunately, they were sectioned and they had mental health support within that. But the thing that they reported after that helped them the most was the cleaner that asked them how they were every day.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And listened to them. And that was the bit that helped them more than any. And to be careful of the pathology of what we are in with mental health, that actually the human connection, that intrinsic sitting with distress, active listening is the ability to sit with somebody else's distress and hold it with them. What a skill.
Yeah, what a skill. Thanks for
absolutely. It's a major skill, isn't it? You know, I'd not heard that. Yeah, I know what you mean about active listening. It's one of the basics. So yeah, I can see that it would be, you know, oh, it's a level 2 skill. No, it's not a level 2 skill, because, you know, talking to you two, Zoe and Mary, you know, you've said this is hard, isn't it, at times? And I'm sure we found it hard at times as well, because nobody's perfect. You know, I've had clients where I've had to sort of really kind of really sort of listen to myself when I'm getting a little bit frustrated with a client, and I feel a little bit like, oh, you know, we're obviously you'd never say this to a client, but you feel a little bit like, why aren't we at that stage now? Or why? It's their pace, and their pace is different to your pace, because they're an individual, and just like Rhianan said, you have to go to them in the place that they are in. But being a qualified therapist does not mean that that you never get frustrated, and it doesn't mean that you never find things difficult. That's just being a human being, isn't it? Yeah, that's just being a human being. But I think it's that respect. Often people will say to me, you know, I do a review sometimes with counselling, and I'll say, what are you getting out of counselling? Oh, I think we've lost Rhiannon. Hopefully she'll come back. Yeah, this is technology for you, isn't it?
Yeah, oh golly, oh don't
Yeah.
forget.
Yeah, but sometimes it is just somebody, you know, somebody.
She's back.
Yeah. Hello.
She's moved sides now. She's moved out. She's moved to the right now. She's moved to, well, my right. Your left.
Yeah, we're just making it more interesting for the viewers today, aren't we? We're all moving around and
mix and match.
Have
you heard the expression, we're given 2 ears to listen more and 1 mouth to speak less?
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Yeah, I like that actually.
Yeah,
I like
that. I thought that, yeah. I
Mm.
thought,
Yeah,
all
there's a
right,
reason we've been
the
given 2 ears and 1 mouth.
mouth, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I think as well, though, when we're listening, we're not just listening to what somebody says, are we? We're listening to, and I think that's been hard with Zoom, hasn't it? Because it's a little bit harder, I think, to gauge body language. Although I think, you know, I think I can gauge your body language, but it is a little bit harder with Zoom, and you're not just hearing what people say, you're hearing the silences, you're hearing the way that somebody presents, you're hearing how animated they are perhaps, or you're hearing differences in body language from one week to the next. And that's important, isn't it?
Yeah, I found, you know, for me, you know, sort of getting onto the placement, you know, at first, you know, I did get a placement on a one-to-one basis, but with the pandemic then it was, I had to do it through the telephone, and I just find I could not do that at all, you know, because some of the clients didn't want obviously to be seen, and so trying to talk to them and engaging, for me that was very, very hard, you know, because, you know, I like to see the person and have that, you know, personal approach. So I mean, yes, I'm listening and I'm trying to listen, and I could feel myself, you know, getting the phone to my ear and trying to, but it wasn't the same as having somebody, and even, you know, face to face, as you say, with body language and that. I think that was very hard for me actually to, you know, try and listen and put forward. I mean, I had you know, the documents down below, and especially as a student, I found that very hard. I thought I was following, you know, the thing, but I was more or less looking to see what I was going to be asking next, and not really listening to what the person was saying. But that's a lot easier now, I must admit. I mean, it's a lot easier, though still learning. Yeah.
Do you find telephone harder, Rhianan, in your practice?
I was actually thinking when Mary was speaking about, I mean, this is a new age of hybrid working. So some of what we'll do is telephone, some is Zoom. And I'm surprised by how many people choose remote now in comparison to coming in person. So there's a mixture, really. I think the world of counselling has changed. And there's different energies. I don't think any of it is useless, personally. I have clients that particularly choose phone. I don't know what they even look like if I pass them in the street. They know what I look like, but I don't. But it's not useless. Zoom, not useless. In person, of course, we love it because we can, again, the part of listening being about all of us and the whole body. But I actually, what Mary said is interesting, because I have to work really, really hard to concentrate and listen when I only have the phone.
Yeah,
it's interesting. It's a different energy per situation. I don't have I can hear sighs and pauses, but I don't have the facial expression. I don't have the immediacy, which is all about active listening, the mismatch in body language. Are they telling me something sad, but they're smiling and I can't see? And we're working actually, if anything, extra hard on the phone. So that's a really valid point.
Yeah, I think you pick up a lot of things from body language, don't you, that you don't even, well, you just pick it up subconsciously, don't you? And when you're on the phone, like you say, because you don't have that, you do have to work sort of twice as hard, don't you?
Yes, I thought, listen, I could feel myself even getting really near the phone, you know.
That's
so
interesting. So we're like, literally think if we put it closer to our ear, somehow we'll get more from it. Glue it.
And you see the landline, I mean, at my age, you know, era, you know, most of, you know, the people round about me, I live in social housing, and most of the people have got landlines. They don't have, you know, sort of mobile phones or internet or something. They're in their 70s and their 80s, you know, a bit like, you know, myself, and I've been very fortunate in a way that I'm getting a bit techno savvy, but I could feel myself, I mean, and the landline is their lifeline. I mean, I did volunteer, you know, with befriending with Age UK in Norfolk. And I found that, and they were just sort of dying to speak to, you know, it was just a matter of them telling the story, you know. I couldn't give any, you know, no advice, but, you know, sort of any whatever. But it was interesting because I could listen to their story and they just wanted to talk all the time. But the counselling is a different, you know, sort of set of skills, isn't it? And then the listening skill is maybe, yes, you're active listening and you're listening for, you know, to be, you know, empathetic with the client. And I found that very, very strange. whereas I got on a lovely way befriending Age UK, talking to them, but just listening to their story, and yeah, I couldn't even nod and say yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, as I say, that was all very, very difficult. I think that's one of the reasons why I've been taking so long to actually get down to actually finishing this, but I will finish it.
You will finish it.
I will.
You will.
I'm determined. I'm
And
determined.
the fact that you've kept on despite
Yeah.
the pandemic and all sorts of things.
Yeah,
And,
I've had knee
you know, and
replacement, all
family
the rest.
illness.
Yeah.
It shows a real determination, and it shows it's really for you, doesn't
Yeah.
it? The fact
Yeah.
that you're still going.
Yeah,
for it.
I am that older person, you know. If I could do it, then, well, I'm not saying everybody can do it, but when I finish, I would like to get out and, you know, just volunteer among, you know, Age UK, and yeah, because there's a lot of isolated people out there. And
There are, and
Definitely.
yeah, and I think that is the power of learning, isn't it? Sometimes
Yes.
people say to me that nobody really wants to hear this anymore. You know, I can't talk to even my best friend anymore, or I can't talk to my family anymore because they think I should be over this, and I can't, or I can't express exactly how I'm feeling because somebody might be offended, or somebody might, you know, or so I think for us to be there as an objective outside person with no agenda of our own,
Definitely.
just kind of walking with somebody at their pace, as you know, as you said, Rhianan. You know, not pushing somebody on, not slowing somebody down, literally going with them.
Side by side.
Yeah, it's incredible.
We have to be
isn't it?
different, don't we? We have to be different than what they would get from their friends. We have to be different from what they, otherwise what's the point in coming and paying for a counselling if you're getting the same thing you get from your friends, which is my friends tell me what to do. If I go to them, I don't want to be told what to do. People just tell me to move on. We want to be different. The space we provide has to be unique, and that power of being heard and how important they feel. And sometimes clients will come and they'll talk and they'll say, I just feel so much better just from, I say just, and I shouldn't be using the word just because I don't want to minimize it, but
I know what you mean. Yeah,
that, you know, that kind of being heard, something they don't get anywhere else, and we're not telling them what to do. And I had actually a client said yesterday that she had told somebody that she's having therapy, and she said, it's the best part of my whole week, it's the best hour of my week, because it's the only time, like, I can't talk to anybody else. And we have to remember that as therapists. It's highly likely they're coming to counselling because there's nowhere else. And I think that's also, I mean, going on to something just slightly different is our judgments as well, because sometimes people will come to therapy because of what they're bringing. They fear judgment from other people. And that's where the active listening aspect of our suspending judgments, because imagine if we sort of put judgment on somebody that was the only place they had to bring something, and then we did that to them. So there's other layers to think about of what is our role as a counsellor actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
Well, I've really enjoyed talking and listening.
So
and it's been fantastic to find out a bit about all of you. Mary, I'm going to think about you at Christmas this year.
Hopefully before.
Raise a glass to you.
Fingers crossed.
No, I'll do it all over Chrysalis. I'm sure Leanne, you know, will be thinking, thank you, you know, sort of thing. She's been very helpful, and Lily as well. And every time, how many more hours have I got to do? And you know, it's the isolation, and I will. I've got to remember. I'll do it before then because I'm well on the way.
Yeah, well, we will raise a glass to you on Christmas Day.
Yes, please. Water, of course. No.
Of course. And so good luck in year 2. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Rhianan,
thank you. Thank you to all. Thank you. It's been
thank you.
Thanks everybody for watching, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We hope you've enjoyed our conversation, and we'll see you again soon. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.